Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a simple swim turning into a chaotic poolside drama. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Attack of an old woman in the swimming pool. It all starts with the most infernal of devices at the gym, the treadmill. See, a friend of mine who's basically a professional gym rat told me, dude, you gotta up your cardio game, and insists that a half hour on a treadmill every time I hit the gym would be a good plan. Did the treadmill thing for a few weeks, and then I noticed anytime I went downhill, my knee was like, hey, you're an a-hole, stop that, which was a problem, as I have a dog who likes to go on walks, and where I live is not precisely known for its flat terrain. This was an issue. Then it got worse. Now it was downhills and stairs, deadlifts, squats, leg press, no problem. Slight downhill, stairs, oh no. Figuring knees aren't something one should ignore and hope it goes away with, I met with my doctor. She promptly referred me to physical therapy and not a knee brace like I was hoping. I met with a PT lady and she did an exam, said my quads are wonk and need work. I also discovered where my quads are. I was told to not do a lot with my legs at the gym other than bikes or swimming. All things being equal, I'll swim. I can swim, but I can't swim well for very long. Turns out being out of breath and trying to get actual air in isn't as easy as it used to be, especially when some fat butt splashing water all around. Until my lungs catch up with the rest of me, I've adopted what I call the fatty twirl. 4 or 5 strokes of freestyle, roll onto my back, and then kick with the legs until I've got air in me, then roll back for more and pray I haven't gotten close enough to the edge of the pool to smack my hand into it. I assume I'm doing well because PT lady hasn't given me that I'm disappointed look typically reserved for dentists when one has forgotten to floss. But that brings us to yesterday. Normally I go in the morning, mostly in the interest of avoiding shrieking children while I'm trying to do my thing, but work was nutty and I went later than I usually do. There were clumps of teenagers doing, I don't even know what, but they mostly just snickered to each other and I minded my business. Now the dry part of my routine is done and it's pool time. I wound up taking a lap lane next to a grandmother in her 50s who was apparently trying to teach her grandkid who was 10 tops how to swim properly. I didn't hear a whole lot, seeing as when my ears weren't underwater, there was a fat guy splashing and making a bunch of noise, but I could tell the kid was splashing and coughing a lot, and this made Grandma upset. I didn't pay attention because it wasn't my business, and there were lifeguards. I just wanted to get my laps done. I was on an extended period of back float time trying to catch my breath when I was ambushed by a pool noodle. Said noodle was applied directly to my face and not gently. While not painful, a noodle to the noggin is quite startling. I believe the first words out of my mouth were, "What the hell?" It was Grandma wielding the noodle, and she was giving me a very stern look. "Watch your language, and stop doing that." I asked Grandma what it was I was doing that led her to believe smacking me with a noodle was a good idea. Grandma informed me that I was swimming stupid and her grandson wanted to copy me, so I needed to stop. After I confirmed that was in fact why I was assaulted with a noodle, I suggested that she might have better luck in the kids' part of the pool. You know, the one over there far away from me. She said she was just fine here, I was the one causing the problem. I thanked her for her opinion and promptly resumed my swim. On my return trip, this woman stepped into my lane and grabbed my ankle. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I'm swimming and something grabs my leg, instant panic response. I immediately started flailing and kicking wildly, trying to free myself. Grandma got herself a nice adrenaline kick right on her forearm. I came up, gasping for air and ready to start swinging. I'm stopped by the soothing sounds of Grandma wailing about how I just broke her arm. Edit, her arm was not in fact broken. She wound up with a nasty bruise and that was it. I caught her with the top of my foot. Pro tip, top of the foot's a bad place to land a kick with. Naturally, that's enough to get the lifeguards involved, none of whom were apparently paying attention before she started screaming. 2 of them are lifting Grandma out of the pool and trying to examine her arm while she's still wailing and flailing. A third is giving me static about kicking another guest in the pool. Well, they started to until I pointed out where the kicking happened and her grandson was. Poor kid had frozen in place with an expression of abject horror. Once she connects the dots, she realizes I'm not the problem. I tell her I'm going to get changed and then I'll identify myself to the front desk because if I'm going to get interrogated, I'd prefer to be clothed. I did my thing, and by the time I'd showered and changed, there was a manager at the desk apologizing for what had gone on. They reviewed the tapes, and that woman's membership had been terminated, and they're very sorry, and please, please, please don't sue us. Best interrogation ever. Play stupid games. Very satisfying to read that the Karen got some well-deserved physical interaction in response to her assault. And our second story. Add up what everyone owes me. Sure thing, boss. This happened 5 years back, but I remembered it at work today. I work at a spa/salon at the front desk, and the employees get a pretty good discount on services, so plenty of them get their nails, lashes, hair, etc. done regularly. The rule is pay when you're done with your service, like any other client, but some wiggle room was allowed. In the case of paydays tomorrow, I'll pay as soon as the money goes through, or if the front desk was busy helping clients and they had to leave. We know where they'll be tomorrow morning at 9. We would put these services on hold and the employee would pay ASAP. It mostly worked on the honor system of don't abuse it or we can't have nice things anymore. Most employees were pretty good about it, but of course there were the few that regularly forgot for days or weeks or I can't pay today, I'll pay tomorrow. And these few were usually the ones with the most seniority. In years worked, not power. One of these employees in particular was far worse than the others. On to the compliance. One day the owner comes in to pick some things up and asks someone on the desk, "What's that little button with 23 notifications on it?" I stepped in and answered, "That's the staff services that are on hold. We have less than 23 employees, which means that one or more employees owe for multiple services." The owner exploded. She started shouting that it's absolutely ridiculous this many people owed her money and how could you have let it go this far? And who are the employees that owe? I started to reply, well, most of them are... She cuts me off and says, "Just add it up now and tell me so I can talk to them about taking it out of their paychecks." I started to open up the window to show the list of employees who owed for services and said, "Okay, just letting you know that the reason there are so many..." And she cuts me off again and says, "Ugh, you guys," front desk I guess, "always have an excuse. There is no excuse. Just do it," and storms off to the staff room. My other desk co-worker who'd been hiding in the bathroom, I can't blame her to be honest, comes out and asks, "Did she see the names on the list?" I replied she did not and got to work on my list, writing out the names of the employees next to their total owing for their services in order from most owed to least. About 30 minutes later, the boss comes down in all her holy terror and demands the list. I handed it to her, and after glancing at it for a moment, she froze. Y'all, if you've never seen someone lose their steam in front of your very eyes, I highly recommend it. At the top of my list is this owner's adult daughter's name, who happens to be an employee and consequently owes the spa nearly $400 in services, after her 50% discount and not including tax. She had gone back to school recently and was only working part-time, so I guess she was short on money and regularly snuck out without paying for her lashes and nails. Back to my shell-shocked boss. After staring at the list for a moment in silence, she went over to the computer, opened up the list of on-hold services, and scrolls through. 90% of the services on hold are her daughter's. After a few more minutes of staring at the list, she finally looks up and says, "I'm her mother and the owner, so I'm going to pay this. However, I want all the receipts to give her, and she is not to get any services unless she prepays. I'll tell her this myself. Make sure the rest of the on-holds are paid by the end of the employee's next shifts." I cashed her daughter's services out, bundled the receipts, gave them to my boss. She thanked me and left. I'm simultaneously sad and relieved that I wasn't present for the verbal butt-whooping her daughter received. That daughter probably felt the fear of God when her mother talked with her about the bill. And our last story. Neighbor threatening to sue over a fence they installed themselves. Our frustrating dispute with our neighbor started when we naively allowed them to tear up our yard to install a pool. They signed an agreement promising to restore our yard to its original state and even provided a $3,000 deposit for assurance. The agreement clearly stated they had until August 15th to complete the work and fix the damages. Well, August 16th rolled around, and guess what? Our yard was still a mess with no signs of them being anywhere near done. It was frustrating, to say the least, but we kept our cool and tried to work with them. Around that time, we also made a deal with their contractor to purchase some extra rocks for the rear of our property. The contractor said they had extras, so it seemed like a good deal. Then came the next issue. They decided to build a large wooden fence. They claimed it was on their property, but we had told them from the start that we preferred a chain link fence on the property line. Despite our wishes, they went ahead with the wooden fence anyway. By mid-September, after giving them multiple chances to finish the job, we had enough. We checked in with them and their contractor, and they both confirmed they didn't need any more access for machinery. So after September 15th, we denied further access to our yard for their equipment. But instead of following through on that agreement, they took it upon themselves to destroy the walkway between our houses by dragging their machinery through it without any discussion or request for permission. The damage kept piling up. Despite everything, we continued allowing them to try restoring the yard, hoping they'd eventually make things right. But when they finally called the restoration complete, it was anything but. The sod they laid was a joke, and about half of the lawn was just dirt sprinkled with some grass seed. It looked awful, far from the lush lawn we had before. We got a professional to come out and give us a quote to fix the disaster, and when we showed it to the neighbors, they didn't take it well. They turned the tables and threatened to sue us if we didn't accept their shoddy work. The main point, they claimed we were encroaching on their property and would sue to recover the cost of moving the fence to the property line. That was the last straw. Update. But here's where the tables turned in our favor. All this time, we'd been documenting everything. Messages, photos, agreements, everything. They didn't know that their precious fence was actually sitting on our property. Armed with the evidence, we filed a lawsuit first. The best part, we dismantled their wooden fence and replaced it with the chain link fence we had wanted from the beginning. Our yard is being properly restored, and the neighbors are scrambling to deal with the lawsuit. They certainly didn't expect us to fight back, but now they're the ones facing legal consequences. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.